Welcome to Math Made Easy. You know that feeling? You're sitting in math class, staring at the board, and it's like a switch just flips off in your brain. But it doesn't happen in history or English or any other subject. If that sounds familiar, you're definitely not alone. We're going to get into exactly why math feels so different. And here's the big secret, right up front. It's not you. You're not bad at math. The real issue is that math demands something completely different from you compared to other subjects. And because it's different, you need a totally different way to study for it. So let's break down the first big difference. With most subjects, you've got three main hurdles: reading, understanding, and remembering the information. But math, well, math throws in a fourth step. And this extra step, it changes the entire game. So yeah, you've got to understand the formulas, process the concepts, and remember them. That's all standard. But then you hit number 4. You have to apply everything you just learned to solve brand new problems correctly. That application part, that's the real challenge, and it's what makes math a unique beast. This slide really nails it. It's all about knowing versus doing. Think about it. In a psychology class, you can learn all the theories, but you don't actually have to treat a patient to get a good grade. In math, just knowing the concept isn't enough. You have to be able to sit down and solve the problems. It's a performance. Okay, so we've got that math as a skill you have to perform, not just a subject you know. And that brings us to the next huge point. These skills are built one on top of the other, which means there are absolutely no skippable steps. The best way to think about it is like building a house. Seriously. Every single new topic is like another floor being added. And you just can't build the second floor, let alone the roof, if your foundation is shaky or has missing pieces. In math, there are no shortcuts. Let me put it this way. In your history class, if you totally space on Chapter 3, you can probably still figure out what's going on in Chapter 4. It might not be ideal, but you can manage. But in math, if you don't fully master Chapter 3, Chapter 4 might as well be written in an alien language. It will make zero sense. So the big takeaway is you can't skip anything. Once you get behind in math, it's so tough to catch up because you're trying to learn today's lesson while still figuring out yesterday's. Which leads to another cool way to look at it. Math is its own language. I mean, just look at this. It's got its own set of symbols, which are basically its vocabulary, and it has grammar, the rules for how you put those symbols together to form sentences, which we call equations. To get good at math, you have to become fluent in this language. And you know what happens when you learn a language but you don't practice it, right? You get rusty. You forget the words, the rules. Well, math is exactly the same. You can't just cram for a test and expect it to stick. It needs constant practice. Which brings us to the most important point of this entire explainer. This right here is the absolute key. Math is a skill subject. And just like any skill, whether it's playing an instrument or a sport, you can't get good by just listening to someone talk about it. You have to get in there and do it. You have to practice like a pro. I love this quote because it's so true. You could watch the best piano player on earth for 100 hours. You could memorize every single finger movement. But the second you sit down at that piano yourself, nothing. Your fingers won't have a clue what to do because you haven't built the skill, the muscle memory. Let's bring this home with an example we all know. Think about cricket legends, guys like Virat Kohli or the great MS Dhoni. How do you think they got so good? It wasn't by just watching recordings of old matches, that's for sure. No way. They're in the nets for hours and hours, day in and day out, practicing that same cover drive or that helicopter shot over and over and over again, thousands of times, until it's not something they think about, it's something they just do. That is exactly how you need to approach math. You're not a spectator watching your teacher play. You are the player, and your homework is your net practice. All right, so if math needs all this practice, why does it feel like your teacher is in a constant sprint to the finish line? Why does it feel so rushed? Well, there's a good reason for that too. It feels fast because it is fast. Instructors are always under pressure to cover a ton of material. Why? Because the next math class you take is going to assume you know 100% of what was taught in this one. A teacher in another subject might be able to skip a chapter, but in math, every single piece is a building block for what's coming next. And when you combine that incredible pace with a timed test, man, that is a recipe for serious anxiety. You start to panic that you'll run out of time, and that panic makes you make mistakes. So what's the solution? You train for speed. And speed only comes from one thing: practice. When you've practiced enough, you don't hesitate. It becomes automatic. So let's wrap this all up.
I hope you're seeing that this isn't about being discouraged. It's about being empowered. Getting good at math has almost nothing to do with being some kind of born genius. It has everything to do with your strategy and your approach.
So here's the bottom line. You have to treat math differently. Understand it's a skill you perform, not just facts you memorize. Accept that every single step is essential, so you can't skip anything. Treat it like a new language you're trying to become fluent in. And above all, practice every single day. That's the only way. It's non-negotiable.
Look, feeling bad at math is what happens when you try to play a game without knowing the rules. But now you know the rules. So the only question is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to change your training? Please like, subscribe. Math Made Easy Suresh channel.